Hey, what's going on, everyone? So it's been a while since my last video. I actually moved. You can probably tell I painted the office this weekend, so I've been a bit busy. But today I'm back at it. I've got another video, this time around exploiting unquoted service paths. So what is that? Well, it's a vulnerability that exists in some Windows software, like in drivers, things like that. It's a trivial vulnerability. I really just think it gets overlooked by vendors most of the time, but it can have some serious consequences if it gets exploited. So for example, if we exploit this vulnerability, we can go from a standard user to a local administrator. We can choose to disable or remove security services, install a backdoor. So many different possibilities. Now, I won't say that it's super common, but you will see it from time to time in your environment, even from, like I said, well-known, reputable software vendors. So today in this video, I'm going to teach you how to find an unquoted service path, how to know whether or not you can exploit it. We're going to create a malicious executable, and then we're going to go from a standard user to a local administrator. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so when we want to exploit a vulnerable service path, we're going to need three things. We're going to need a service that runs with higher privileges than our standard account, so ideally system privileges. We're going to need a service that has an unquoted service path and a space in the name. And then we're also going to need the ability to write an executable or modify an existing one within the service path. So how do we find these unquoted service paths? So there's a number of ways. One way we can do this is by pulling up the registry. And if we go to this location in the registry here, we can look at this service, Sophos Clean Service. We can see that, hey, it's in quotes right here. And then we can also see that it runs with local system privileges. Now, it has part of what we need. It runs with local system privileges, but the service path is quoted, which means that we're not able to exploit it. If we look for another service, such as this one, we can see that it also runs with local system privileges, and the service path is not quoted because there's no quotes here. Another way we can do this is with PowerShell. So service information is stored in WMI, which is essentially like a database that Windows is built upon. All right, so what we're saying here is to query WMI. In the services, we're going to select the path name and the start name. The start name is the privileges that the service runs with. So as you can see, this returns all the services. We can see the quotes here, and we can see the privilege that it runs with. If we scroll to the one service we found earlier that's unquoted, we can see there's no quotes, there's a space, and it runs with local system privileges. All right, so now we found a couple ways to find unquoted service paths and their privileges. Next, we need to determine if we have the ability to write to any of those paths. So what we can do is we can use a Microsoft tool called Access Check. Now, this is going to be a tool that you'll have to download here. All right, so what we're saying is hey, run this Access Check tool, and we have a couple switches specified. So we have a S, meaning do a recursive search in this directory, C program files. So every directory found within C program files, it's going to check for. The W means only return paths that we can write to as a built-in user. So let's go ahead and run this. As you can see, we do have, as a built-in user, we have read-write privileges on C program files software LLC. So let me show you what this means. All right, so this is what happens when you have an unquoted service path in Windows. Is Windows doesn't understand where the program is. So it's going to try a couple different locations. So ultimately, this is where the service resides, right here at this location at C, Program Files, Software LLC, the service.exe. If this was in quotes, Windows would know to go straight to this path. But because it's not in quotes, it's going to try checking in a couple different locations. So because there's a space here in C program files, the first thing Windows is going to look for is an executable called C program.exe. And then it's going to go to the next space. So C program files, software LLC, the exe. Because as you can see, there's another space right there. And then there's no more spaces. So then the final location it'll look for a program is in C program files, software LLC, the service, the service.exe. So the way we exploit this is as long as we have the ability to create an executable at C, then we can go ahead and exploit this. Now, C, a standard user is not going to have the ability to write programs to that. We're only going to have the ability to read to that location. This next one here, C program files software LLC, if we as a standard user have the ability to write to that, then we can exploit this. And as you can see from the access check tool that we just ran, we do have privileges to write to that location. So if we pull it up, C program files software LLC, we need to put an executable right here and name it the.exe. All right, so let me clear my screen here. What we're going to do is we're going to create an exe. Now I'm going to use a scripting language called AutoIT. This allows us to compile different commands such as PowerShell commands into an exe. So if you prefer to use a different scripting language or a different programming language, you can use whatever you want as long as you can create an executable. So what we're saying here is we're saying, hey, run PowerShell exe dash command, and then we're saying add local group member. So we're adding Rick here to the local administrators group. And let me show you real fast that we are logged on as Rick. And as we can see, Rick is not a member of the local administrators group. So what we're going to do is we're going to compile this script into an executable. All right, so the executable is right here on the desktop. Now we need to go ahead and write that to that directory that we have the ability to write to. So that was under C, program files, software LLC, and then right here. Okay, so we've placed the executable here, and now the next step would be to restart the computer. So once the computer restarts, it's going to go ahead and try to execute the service. It's going to first look for a C program.exe. It's not going to find it. So then it's going to go into C program files, software LLC. It's going to find the.exe, and it's going to run that and allow Rick to be a local administrator. So let's go ahead and restart, and then we'll check the local administrators group. Okay, so we're logged back on. Let's go ahead and check the local administrators group. And we can see that Rick is now a local administrator.